In 2015, an American archaeology company bought military documents from the Han Dynasty. 2,000 years ago, the Roman army went to China when an ancient city called Regum was being built. Long story short, a team of archaeologists was sent to an area where the ancient city was thought to be located. Two archaeologists finally managed to find the location among the snow-capped mountains. They then conducted a satellite-connected scan to see the entire site in 3 dimensions. The scene moved to 48 BC at a location called the Silk Road, where China's western border has always been a battleground for 36 countries. Then there was a commander of the Silk Road Protection Force named Huan. Meanwhile, there was a white Indian force led by a leader who had already faced off against the Black Army of the Han Nation. Huan and his troops watched the two armies from afar. According to Huan, they were fighting for land because the Han Nation was being hit by drought. Then Huan and his troops headed straight for the two strongholds to stop the war. When Huan arrived there, he asked both sides to restrain themselves according to the motto of the Silk Road Protective Force to turn enemies into friends. He was ready to help their problems and stop the fighting. But there was a woman called Cold Moon who was not satisfied with Huan's decision. Cold Moon directly whipped Huan, but Huan immediately fought the woman. In the middle of the fight, Huan accidentally held Cold Moon's breast. This made Cold Moon feel harassed by Huan. Therefore, Cold Moon was getting emotional and immediately took out a sword. Huan, who saw that which carried a message of peace, did not want to use his sword against Cold Moon. Huan only parried Cold Moon's attack with his hand shield. The fight ended when Huan accidentally pulled Cold Moon's veil. Finally, the Silk Road Protective Force mission succeeded in preventing the war between the two nations. But strangely, Huan's troops laughed at Huan. They laughed because before they left, Huan returned Cold Moon's veil, but she invited him to sleep together. Huan, who saw Cold Moon taking off her clothes, was shocked and immediately ran away. It was discovered that for the Han Nation, unveiling a woman's veil meant he had already proposed to her. After they were satisfied with laughing at Huan, they finally returned to their village. When Huan arrived in his village, he went straight to his house. There he met his wife Shu King, who was teaching the children while singing. Then Huan asked his wife to help write a report. Huan also said that some of his salary from the prefecture was used to treat his injured friends. Shu King reluctantly accepted her husband's decision. In the middle of their conversation, someone knocked on their door. That person was Yin Po, who said that there was bad news. Yin Po explained that the prefectural army found 4 boxes of gold outside the border. The problem was that inside the gold boxes was an inspection document signed by the Silk Road Protective Force. Hearing that, Huan immediately left. When Huan arrived at the place where the prefecture was located, he saw several of his troops handcuffed. Huan felt innocent of this incident. He felt that someone was slandering him. Unfortunately, because of the evidence, Huan's troops were still arrested. In the morning, Huan and his troops were taken somewhere using an ancient prisoner train. They were taken to a city prison called Wild Geese Gate. Although Huan's men were upset, he remained relaxed and believed that justice would favor the right people. A while later, Huan and his men arrived at Wild Geese Gate. They saw the temple of Hu Qubing and paid homage to all the services of General Huo in the past. At the same time, Huan remembered his childhood when his younger brother was killed in the war. General Huo, who knew Huan, was sad, then approached him. But Huan, who was still a child at that time, was angry and stabbed General Huo. Instead of getting angry, General Hu, who knew Huan stabbed him in the stomach, he advised Huan. The general said that Huan's courage should be used to save people in distress. Besides, at Wild Geese Gate there were many prisoners working to restore the damaged fort. Then suddenly, there was an accident with some prisoners who worked to restore the fort. Fortunately, a prisoner was saved by Huan. As a result of the work accident, some prisoners blamed each other. They even fought each other on the spot. Huan, who saw the chaos in prison, then tried to break them up. Huan even had to fight with several prisoners in order to stop them all. Luckily, the fighting was stopped when a warden struck a gong. Then Huan and his men received orders to face Rat. Rat then demeaned Huan and said that he was a leader who was nothing. Rat even challenged him to defeat Huan with 10 moves. Huan knew that he was humiliated. He just kept quiet and didn't care about the hurtful words. While outside the prison, there was a Roman army led by Lucius. Lucius brought 800 troops and 3,000 arrows with thirsty and exhausted conditions. They planned to take over Wild Geese. The troops were carrying their crown prince Publius, who had lost his sight due to his brother's cruelty. Inside the Wild Geese, the troops were surprised by the arrival of a large number of Roman armies. Then the commander ordered his men to shoot arrows. Instantly, Lucius withdrew his troops. Unfortunately, Rat was provoked to see them retreat. He ordered his troops to pursue the Roman army. Even though Huan had warned him that they were retreating not because they surrendered, but it was part of the enemy's plan to trap. But the man still remained stubborn and went after the Roman army. Eventually, the Roman army managed to capture Rat and his troops as hostages. Seeing that, Huan immediately took over Wild Geese. He ordered the remaining troops to prepare to attack the Roman army and work together to carry out Huan's plan. Soon the Roman army came and were about to attack Huan's troops. But before they attacked, Huan's troops met them. Huan negotiated with Lucius. Huan asked Lucius to release his troops and leave this place. But Lucius didn't want to leave because he and his troops were unable to continue the journey. Afterward, Huan attacked Lucius with his special sword. The two of them engaged in a sword fight. Huan's troops and Lucius' troops looked excited. But not long after, Huan was surprised to see some of Lucius' troops fall unconscious from exhaustion. Meanwhile, the prince's assistant, Valko, recounted the gallantry of their general when fighting with Huan. However, suddenly a sandstorm was seen approaching them all, while the little prince who was sick fainted again. Seeing this, Huan, who was a protective army, asked for the fight to be stopped. Huan seemed worried that the Roman prince and them, as well as his entire army, were blown away by the storm. Then Huan allowed them all to enter the city. After a while, Publius regained consciousness after a healer treated him. Publius, who could not see, immediately asked Lucius if he had defeated the Chinese. The humbled Huan instantly replied that Lucius had won the fight against the Chinese. Unlike Huan, who was happy to see the peace, Rat asked the Roman army to leave the city tomorrow. Then the true story was revealed that Lucius took Prince Publius after Prince Publius' older brother Prince Tiberius deliberately poisoned him. Prince Tiberius wanted to do this because he wanted Prince Publius to be blind. Lucius, as the general finally learned of Prince Tiberius' crime, immediately took Prince Publius away from the Roman palace. Lucius decided to do this for the safety of all of them. Huan came back and approached Lucius. He asked about their destination tomorrow. Lucius, who heard the question, was only confused because Lucius had no further destination. Even so, Huan still considered him a friend. While they were chatting, Rat suddenly came with the news that the prefectural chief gave them 15 days to complete the construction of this fort. If they all couldn't complete the construction of the fort, then they would all be sentenced to death. Then Rat asked Huan to ask for help from 36 countries to complete this project. But with the current number of workers, it would take them at least 6 months to complete the project. The next day, they all gathered to discuss the project. The Romans, who were famous for their architects, were ready to help them. Even the Romans were confident that in 15 days the construction of the city would be completed. Lucius then asked Huan's men to escort his envoys to the Persian kingdom. It was revealed that before Prince Publius was seized by Prince Tiberius, he had made an agreement with the Persian kingdom. Then some envoys finally immediately left for Persia. Meanwhile, Lucius and his experts directly measured the building with ancient technology. At that time, they even showed how to move large stones with ease. It can be seen that all the prisoners of this city worked together to complete the fort construction project. Even to make the work easier, they made heavy equipment that was dominated by wood. With the tools that Lucius' troops made, they were able to facilitate the work in building the fort. Meanwhile, Lucius told the prince that this Silk Road was the lifeblood of trade and culture that connected the West and the great kingdoms of the East. In the conversation with Prince Publius, Lucius seemed very fond of Prince Publius. Then when his troops and Lucius' troops rested, Huan invited his men to practice. Huan showed Chinese martial arts, which amazed all the inhabitants of Wild Geese. Seeing that, Lucius, who did not want to lose, invited his soldiers to do the same. The exercise continued with a fight from each messenger. Rat then took advantage of this opportunity to become a lottery bookie. In the first battle, Huan's man came out as the champion. But in the second battle, Lucius' soldiers managed to subdue Huan's men. Long story short, at the end of the battle, Lucius' men presented a sword as a symbol of the fraternity. This made them all more excited. Then they continued building tirelessly to complete the fort building. At the same time, Huan recalled the determination and ideals of General Hu to unite 36 countries in peace. Then Huan asked each country to paint its flag, and Lucius and Prince Publius were no exception. Day after day, they built a fort, until finally the magnificent fortress around Wild Geese was finally completed within 15 days. The successful construction of this fortress was the result of the cooperation of the Chinese, the Romans, and all races in the city. They were united and cheered because they succeeded in building the fort. By nightfall, Lucius finally told the real story to Huan. Lucius said that he served on the orders of the king or consul named Marcus Licinius. Marcus made a mutual protection agreement with the Queen of Persia, the sister of Lady Crassus. Lucius also said that Tiberius was the eldest son of Marcus, who was cruel and dangerous. Therefore, Marcus chose his youngest son Publius to succeed to the throne. Lucius was ordered to guard Prince Publius. One day, the medicine sent by the Queen of Persia to treat Publius' vision problems was poisoned by Tiberius. Tiberius even had the heart to kill his own father. Then Lucius felt that there was no other choice to save Prince Publius. So, Lucius and his troops chose to flee and take the prince. After hearing Lucius' story, Huan then told the story of his past. Huan and his younger brother have been orphans since childhood. Until one day, Huan was forced to cover his brother's mouth to death while being chased by criminals. Then Huan was saved by General Hu, the pioneer of Wild Geese Gate. Meanwhile, the person sent by Lucius arrived in Persia. He was sent to present the treaty document. In addition, it was written in the document that he asked for help to prevent Tiberius' next evil intentions. Then one of Lucius' men saw that Tiberius and his troops were heading to the Wild Geese Gate. Lucius, who knew that, intended to confront Tiberius and his troops, because Lucius did not want to sacrifice Huan and the people at Wild Geese Gate. However, Huan was worried that Tiberius would become more ruthless and take the Silk Route. Huan suspected that Tiberius was working with the prefecture head. Huan then decided to return to his hometown and sent Yin Po's troops. But suddenly Publius appointed Huan as the first officer of the Roman legion. Meanwhile, the cruel Tiberius beheaded all of Lucius' envoys who were going to Persia. Then suddenly Lucius received news that a relief force had arrived. But when he met them, Lucius was surprised because these people turned out to be hitmen who were sent to finish him off. In the meantime, Huan, who had just arrived at his house, was surprised to see that the prefectural soldiers were about to take his wife by force. Seeing that, Huan immediately fought them all. While Huan was in action, Cold Moon arrived and helped Huan by shooting the prefectural soldiers. Then Cold Moon managed to save Huan's wife. However, she unexpectedly said that she was also Huan's wife. Instead of fighting, the two of them worked together to save the children. Sadly, when Su King rescued the children, she was shot by an arrow. Therefore, Huan immediately threw burning coals so that he could escape. However, Su King eventually died due to severe injuries. Back to the Wild Geese Gate, where Tiberius took control of the place. He captured Lucius and locked him up in a special place. Tiberius then revealed that he worked with Yin Po to frame Huan for the gold case. Then it turned out that he also let Lucius and Prince Publius escape to Wild Geese Gate so that he could control the Silk Road. After he revealed everything, Tiberius dropped Prince Publius from the tower. Meanwhile, Huan finally found out that Yin Po was a traitor. Then Huan was forced to be handed over to Tiberius along with representatives from 36 other countries. Soon Yin Po arrived with his troops. At the same time as Huan was put into the cell, he managed to steal the cell key. Long story short, Huan tried hard, and finally he and other prisoners were able to free themselves. He then gave the cell key to Lucius' troops. Suddenly, Tiberius' troops attacked Yin Po. Seeing that, Yin Po was confused why Tiberius attacked him. It didn't take long for Tiberius to defeat Yin Po. Huan went to see Lucius, but he was surprised to see both of Lucius' eyeballs broken. Huan was sad because he couldn't help his best friend. Lucius then entrusted the Roman army to Huan. Seeing Lucius in pain, Huan then heated him up to ease his death. After that, Huan and the Roman army attacked Tiberius' army by throwing stones. Then on the Silk Road, Huan saw Tiberius and his thousands of troops ready to attack Huan. But all of a sudden thousands of birds came because it turned out that Cold Moon also came with Han troops. Moreover, thousands of troops from other nations supported Huan. Without waiting for long, they all attacked the Roman army. The battle was fierce and casualties fell from both sides. Until one moment Tiberius felt victorious from the combined forces. Luckily at the right time, the Persian army arrived with much more numbers than Tiberius' army. Then the Queen of Persia ordered Tiberius to surrender because his crimes had been exposed. Tiberius' uncle, who was the counselor, advised him to surrender. However, the cruel Tiberius killed his uncle. At the same time, none of Tiberius' army submitted to him. So, Huan attacked Tiberius as a Roman who was directly appointed by Prince Publius. At first, Huan seemed overwhelmed because of his weak condition. But soon Huan was able to kill the very evil Tiberius. In the end, Huan was able to finish the war. After this war, the Silk Road returned to peace.